Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. On behalf of the EVMS Board of Visitors, I first want to say that we firmly believe there is no place for these types of photos, and we regret what has happened. On behalf of the board, we sincerely apologize. The board was made aware of the yearbook photo issue Friday afternoon, and we immediately directed the president to take action. So under the direction of the board, Dr. Homan has created the Community Advisory Board. Under the direction of the board, he's engaged an outside law firm to conduct an independent third-party investigation into how such clearly offensive and unacceptable photos came to be published in the yearbooks in the past. This investigation will be fully independent, it will not be restricted in scope, and will be fully transparent. We are committed to finding the truth and being transparent in this process. We held a board meeting early Monday morning, and the full board affirmed the actions the President has taken thus far. We have supported the actions of the President and his management team since Dr. Homan's arrival here at EVMS and their work on diversity and inclusion. The board believes in the professionalism, the competence, and compassion of our students, our staff, and our faculty. We believe we will learn from this and become a stronger institution because of it. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to President Homan.
Thank you, Vice Rector Warden, and thanks so much for having the opportunity to speak with you today. We appreciate the opportunity to share you with more information and then have an opportunity for you to be able to ask questions of me and the individuals that are here representing EVMS. As you know, the past EVMS yearbooks have contained shockingly abhorrent pictures that are antithetical to the values and principles of our professions. Some are shockingly racist, some are repugnant, and others are unprofessional and inappropriate. We all recognize that racism and discrimination has no place in our society, and certainly not in a health sciences institution. We are acutely hurt by the events which occurred, but it does not compare to the feelings of outrage and pain for our minority and African American community here at EVMS, Virginia, and around the nation. The emotional wounds they endure are enormous. I want to express my sincere apologies, particularly to the African American communities who are most injured from the pictures of the yearbooks and those pictures which have been circulated in the press over the last few days. I am so sorry for the pain that has inflicted upon you. But now, where do we go from here? And as you recall, we established the Community Advisory Board to perform an independent assessment of the culture and operations of EVMS. We have the authority, they will have the authority to investigate any aspect of EVMS they believe is important. The chair of that Community Advisory Board is Gilbert Bland, a man who is esteemed in the business community, a leader with integrity, fairness, and the trust of our community. He is also the president and CEO of the Urban League of Hampton Roads. One member from our faculty, Dr. L.D. Britt, will also serve as one of the members of the Community Advisory Board. He is the chair of surgery, the former past president of the American College of Surgeons, and esteemed as a national leader in surgery and medicine nationally and internationally. Dr. Edward Ayers, former president of the University of Richmond, will also serve on this board, as will a few others to be determined in the coming days. Now, on Sunday, February 3rd, the Board of Visitors, Rector and Vice Rector, directed me to hire an outside law firm to do a detailed and objective third-party investigation. We engaged Richard Cullen and his team on McGuire Woods that day. He is a former Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia, a former U.S. attorney, and highly regarded in the legal profession. The Community Advisory Group and Mr. Cullen's group will work in parallel and collaboratively and cooperatively. A single report will be issued to the Board of Visitors and the public. The intent is to create a transparent, open, objective, and thorough process of the findings of fact, conclusions, and recommendations. Yesterday, I had time to meet with our internal stakeholders. We met with the senior management group at 7:30, the leadership team at EVMS. As Vice Rector Warden mentioned, the Board of Visitors held an emergency meeting at 7:45, and at noon I conducted a town hall meeting with over 400 staff, faculty, and students attending. I met later that afternoon with the student government leaders, the members of the Student National Medical Association local chapter, many minority students, and then our chairs of our departments. Now, at this point, I'd like to clarify one comment I made yesterday. I noted in our emergency board meeting Monday morning that 3 troubling photos had appeared in the 2003 yearbook. Mr. Mehta, our Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, brought the 2013 yearbook to me and informed me of some troubling photos in very early 2014. I did not know that EVMS published yearbooks at that time. I was appalled by the pictures and directed our Vice President of Diversity and our Vice Dean of Academic Affairs that there would be no more yearbooks at EVMS. But it came to my attention last night that students were looking at discontinuing the publication because of cost and lack of interest. I was unaware of these discussions. While the students made a decision based on cost, I made the decision based on content. Notwithstanding, there were no more published yearbooks since the 2013 edition. Now, before we move on, let me be very clear. There are many circumstances we need to clarify. That's why we hired the independent law firm to investigate. That's why we have to be very careful about making comments without the benefit of the investigation. However, I do not need a report to know that this situation was the ultimate responsibility of our institution, of EVMS, and not the students. Our students are bright, compassionate, dedicated, and skilled. They're extraordinarily competent and caring individuals. That's why they chose EVMS, to be with other like students that share that passion. We are so proud of them, and we're confident in the work that they do and the high quality care they provide when they graduate. Now, 7 years ago, I came to EVMS having been a dean at 2 other schools in the United States. I knew of its reputation of providing outstanding education for students, residents, and the wonderful faculty that they have here. They had excellent research programs and a very high regard in primary care. They were dedicated to teaching the next generation of healthcare professionals, scientists, and physicians. The reputation at that time was outstanding, as it is today. We enjoy support from our generous community leaders, and we've had the opportunity to develop a wonderful institution. So given that context, we are serious about finding the facts of what happened. We want to be sure that we are transparent and open and have the ability to ensure that the public can have the trust of EVMS and that our students, faculty, and alumni who do such great work every day, caring for the communities they do, can be assured that this institution continues to do its great work. So I want to thank all of them for the commitment to medicine and health professions here at EVMS. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mehta, Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, to the podium to discuss our efforts to enhance the culture of diversity and inclusion. Mr. Mehta.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. And as President Holman mentioned, The mission of this institution was one of the reasons why I joined this institution shortly after he did. And the opportunity to drive this mission of community orientation through diversity and inclusion efforts. And I believe we have made significant efforts through the past 6 years at this institution to advance diversity and inclusion. Some of the efforts include looking at how we diversify our trainees. And we started with implementing holistic review in our admissions process, training all our admissions committee to facilitate review of various qualities that students bring to our school beyond the academic metrics. We doubled the number of minority students in our MD program in the past 2 years, reaching 20% of the last 2 classes. We have increased the number of underrepresented minority students in our health professions program as well. We approach about over 30% of our students across the school are underrepresented minorities in the health professions and medical programs. We have developed a mentoring community across in Hampton Roads that includes pre-medical students at colleges in the area, including the historically black colleges and universities, such as Hampton University and Norfolk State University, to engage students in mentoring programs across the school, which involves our medical students here, community physicians in the community who are underrepresented minorities. We have also increased the pipeline programs we have in the pre-K and through 12 programs, working with organizations such as the 200 plus Black Men to engage high school students who are Black men into health professions. Because we have highlighted in our publications and in engaging in conversations where we showed that Black students, actually African American students, are lacking in medical school, and we have made particular efforts in that area. We have also implemented policies to increase the number of faculty and leadership that come from underrepresented groups, increasing that effort with search policies that includes implicit bias training in the search process and policies to diversify the search committees in this effort. The training programs that we have implemented across the board include implicit bias training for everyone that is required in the institution, from staff to leadership to faculty to trainees. Our board of visitors may be one of the few boards in the nation at medical schools who have undergone implicit bias training. We have also engaged the community in numerous efforts to have conversations on social justice and health disparities, bringing speakers and programs that engage our students and trainees and local communities and physicians in the community in conversation on how we improve the health of our community and address health disparities. All in all, we have made significant progress at this institution to address the persistent health disparities and inequities that exist in the nation. And I believe that the reflection and the retrospection that we're going to have through this challenging process will increase our efforts and help our students to be the most competent in serving the diverse communities that we have in our nation. Thank you so much, and we'll take your questions.
Questions?
Yes, sir. Have you spoken to the governor since Friday?
No, I've not. His staff came to our library to be able to review some of the yearbooks and had very perfunctory communication with my staff. I've not had any conversations with him nor his staff.
Are you aware if he was or was not in that photo? Is there any kind of proof that you guys have uncovered thus far?
We do not know, and that's part of the investigation. That's why we have the Community Advisory Board and the law firm to be able to get the facts.
Do you have any idea of how tally yet?
I don't have a tally. I know my staff has reviewed it. All I know is that one is not is sufficient for me to be alarmed. And so at this stage, what we want to do is to take that seriously. There's been a pattern, as I mentioned. Some are repugnant, some are unprofessional, some are shockingly abhorrent, like I mentioned. And we have to make sure that we can review that, and the board and the law firm will look at that, determine what the numbers are, what the process is, develop an assessment and recommendations for our school to improve.
Did school staff ever look at the yearbook before it was published, or was that just students that put this yearbook together?
At this point, it depends on the year, from what I understand. I don't know specifically. The students have had an active engagement in this school from its inception. It's a community that was created by the community for the community, and as a result of that, was bootstrapped from limited resources with faculty and students that were very closely knit. And through that process, there was a blended responsibility for some functions like that. I have to imagine that some issues that were overseen by faculty, but I do not know which ones, and that's part of the process to get all of the facts of the investigation.
Any guidelines?
Has anyone contacted you from the student staff that were a part of the layout crew or the editor? Have anyone from the school contacted them, or anyone from that staff contacted you all?
Is in terms of that one photo?
In terms of the 1984 review?
No, I've not received any information. I don't know if my staff has. But my feeling is this happened on Friday. It's been very fluid here, and we're trying to communicate to all the stakeholders in the region, our faculty, staff, our students. I'm concerned about my minority students here because they're hurt. As I mentioned, our African-American community in this region is outraged, as they should be, as well as around the country. So we've tried to create a process, that's what we've done, to ensure that there is openness, fairness, but thoroughness in a third-party independent investigation. And I think through that process, we will gain the facts. It'll be available to you as it becomes available, because it'll be reported to our Board of Visitors, which is our fiduciary board, and to the public.
You've already said that when you learned about the photos that were in the 2013 yearbook and discontinued the yearbook, it did not prompt you to go back and review previous yearbooks at that time. But had you reviewed them and had you actually seen the photo that was on Governor Northam's yearbook page, would you have made that photo public at that time?
I can say that we're a public institution. We receive public funds, and we're not political. And I would want to try to direct our energy to that which Mr. Mehta mentioned about improving the diversity and inclusion culture of this school. And that's what we've tried to focus on during my tenure here.
Would you have made it public?
I don't think I would have made it public because of the political nature of that photograph. And we are a public institution receiving public funds. My sense is that we need to focus on that which we need to do to create an environment of inclusion and diversity and have the opportunity to be able to make sure that the next generation of physicians and health professionals have hold those values.
Why did you pick Mr.
Mr.
Cullen?
Mr. Cullen was recommended by 2 or 3 sources as an extraordinarily well-regarded attorney in Virginia, former U.S. attorney, former Attorney General of Virginia, the chairman of McGuire Woods, a very esteemed law firm. And he had done similar programs like this with other institutions. And
Bottom line, what are you hoping to get from this report? I mean, this happened over 30 years ago. Finding out how it happened
Right.
is going to change it.
Right, and I think that's a great question, because we want this to be more than just the review of what happened 30 years ago. We want to know what's happening today and what we can do to make things better. So I think both the Community Advisory Board and the law firm are going to work in concert, as I mentioned, collaboratively and in parallel. And through that process, we'll understand why, what, and where. Why could this have happened? You know, who was responsible in terms of the oversight or lack thereof? Because, as I mentioned in one of my press releases, you know, if you don't understand history or don't respect it, you're destined to repeat it. And we never want to repeat anything like this again. But more importantly, to review the past, we want to also have an environmental survey of our operations and culture of diversity today. In medicine, and I'm a physician, we always get concerned with the idea of the lack of knowledge. It's our blind spot. We don't know what we don't know. In medicine, if you know what you know, it's easy. If you know what that you don't know, you get a consult. But if you don't know what you don't know, it's dangerous. And that metaphor applies to management. And we want to make sure we know where our blind spots are, because I may not be able to see those. And this is going to be a transparent process so that the investigatory team will look to hopefully uncover opportunities for us to be able to improve the processes, improve our culture, improve the ability for us to do this going forward and in perpetuity. So it's not a one and done. This is the metaphor of quality improvement and making sure that we can ensure that the work that's done through this process continues beyond my tenure here.
Dr. Helmut, can you clarify, if the school had no involvement with the yearbooks, how were you then able to discontinue it in 2014? Can you clarify?
Well, I'm not saying the yearbooks were paid by EVMS funds through student affairs fee from the students, and there was oversight at the time. I understand from last night, actually, there was a medical student who's now a physician who emailed me stating that in parallel at the time when I knew what occurred now it's very early 2014, Mr. Mehta came to me with the yearbook saying, look at these pictures. The students in parallel, and I was unaware of this, were also looking to see what the value was. It's costly, not a lot of, perhaps a lot of interest, and they were looking to maybe discontinue it independently. Notwithstanding, I saw the content, and I made the decision at that time, based on content alone, that we were not going to have any more yearbooks.
Would you have had the authority to discontinue
Yes.
them?
Yes.
Can I ask you
One
And-
clarification, please, one clarification. Not EVMS funds, student fees, which students pay in and then fund their activities. So not core dollars, student fees.
Yes.
Dr. Helmut, can I ask you a question about whether or not you've heard from the governor's staff or governor himself as to whether they're also hiring a private investigator to look into how these pictures?
I don't know. The only contact we've had with the staff is when the pictures broke, they came to our library to be able to look at the actual copy of the 2084 copy of the yearbook so they could look at it in person.
And that was the only conversation that was had? that came
Well, it wasn't really a conversation. It's just we wanted to make access available to it because that which is in our library, we're a public library. Anybody can come in to be able to utilize that. And we wanted to make sure we were cooperative with his staff.
Doctor, have you been able to connect the dots on how that picture made it to the social media site? Who here alerted them? Who gave it to them? Who directed them to say, hey, we have this picture? Or sent it to them? Took a picture of it and emailed it to them? Texted it to them? Who did it here?
Who did it here?
Yeah. They didn't.
I don't know where the origin. Let me back up. I have no idea as to what the origin of how that picture got to the internet or whatever blog or website it was that was posted on the web. And as you know, once something like that is posted on the web, it has a life of its own. And the life of its own eventually landed it here. And as soon as we knew, and I knew, we took action. And that was a serious issue. And that's when I wrote, and during the night, the first press release that I provided, expressing my outrage, number one, expressing the fact that we're a health sciences institution here. I carry medicine very seriously in terms of our profession. I'm only in this chair as a president and dean for a short time, but I carry the torch of Hippocrates, of medical ethics, of compassion, of empathy, of integrity of our profession. And so when that is threatened, I have to take action as a physician, as every physician would do.
Last question.
Any idea who would be legally responsible for the 84 photos? Would it be the school? Would it be the folks who laid it out? The yearbook staff? Yearbook editor?
It's an EVMS yearbook, And so it's an EVMS product, and it was in the EVMS library. And so, as I mentioned before, what we do not want to do, and again, let me be clear, the institution takes responsibility for what occurred in the past, as they do now, as I do now. I do not want to create a sense that this is at all the responsibility of our students. The students are not responsible for that, the institution is. And whether the institution had appropriate oversight or not is an open question that will be evaluated by the investigatory teams.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
You don't know anyone who leaked the picture from inside EVMS?
No,
That it came from in here that alerted them that, hey, look what we have.
I do not know. I do not know. I have no knowledge of anyone in EVMS leaking anything.
How would it have gone out?
There are, the source were classmates that had it previously. It was in the library. It had public access. But to my knowledge, I have known no one from the EVMS staff, faculty, students that initiated the process.
Because he was in politics for 12 years and it never came out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.